Good day, Junior Tickies. I'm Mrs. Brimacombe. We're going to look now at activity 2. In this activity, we are going to focus on the cash payment journal of a service business. So this is a continuation of activity 1. In activity 1, the focus was on the cash receipts journal, which means that the business received cash. Now we're going to look at what happens if the business makes cash payments. So the business name is Rent a Tent and Repairs. It's a service business. On the 1st of January 2024, Rent a Tent was started as a business hiring out tents. Here are some of the transactions that took place in the first month. The business is owned by Aubrey Marie. Required, record the transactions on the CPJ or in the CPJ for the month of January 2024 and indicate the influence that each of the transactions will have on the accounting equation. So before we look at the transactions that must go into the CPJ, let's get a better understanding of how does the CPJ work. So when you look at your CPJ, we start with the first column, which is document number. When we look at document number, that's the evidence or proof that the transaction took place. So our options when the business receives cash, we set duplicate receipt, bank statement, cash register roll. Those are not applicable to the cash payment journal because the business didn't receive money. Now the business made a payment. So you can never ever have cash register roll or duplicate receipt in a cash payment journal. However, you can have bank statement. Why? Because a bank statement, as you could, if you remember correctly in chapter 2, a bank statement shows all the money that was received and all the money that was paid from your bank account. So on your bank statement, it will also reflect payments that were made. And if we use the bank statement, then it means our document as evidence, as proof, will be bank statement. So these will be things like a debit order, giving an instruction to a third party that they can take money off your bank account. If an EFT payment is made, we will have EFT. That's another option as our document, as evidence and proof. If I go to the ATM and I draw cash, we can use the ATM, that slip that you get, as proof, as evidence that money was withdrawn from the bank account. So these are my options when you look at the CPJ. Then we have on what day did the transaction took place. Details, who did we pay? So we have to write the name of whoever we made the payment to. If there's no name, for example, if money was withdrawn from the ATM, that will be cash. If we paid our weekly wages, that will be cash. But we'll get into that a little bit later when we start the activity. Then we've got folio, but folio we'll get to at a later stage. Now we've got our money columns. And you can see, when we look at a cash payment journal, it means that money came off our bank account. So bank will always be involved. That's the first account. Bank will always be credited from the CPJ. But now we need to identify for what reason. And that's what we need to indicate in all the other money columns. And if there isn't a money column open, it goes under sundry accounts. Money column will be open and they will tell you which ones to open, or it will be given to you for things that happen often during the month. Things that doesn't happen often, it goes under sundry accounts. Right, so let's have a look at the first transaction. On day 2, purchased new office furniture from ZR Office Suppliers and paid by EFT number 1, 23,800. So we start with identifying the source document, EFT number 1, on which day, day 2, from who did we purchase from? ZR Office Suppliers. How much did we purchase for? 23,800, that goes under bank. For what reason? Office furniture will be shown as equipment. Please remember chapter 1 when we did all of these. You're not going to write it as new office furniture. This will be regarded as a non-current asset. There are 3 options: vehicles, equipment, and land and buildings. So when we're talking about furniture, it will go under equipment. On day 7, drew cash from the ATM to pay the weekly wages, 4,500. The business employs 3 workers. So they didn't say each worker earns 4,500. They just said paid the weekly wages, and then they told us how many workers we do have. So we start with the source document. We drew cash, so we can write ATM as our document. On day 7, because there's no name, this will be cash. How much? 4,500. For what reason? For wages. Day 13. Purchased the following from Adams Stationers and made an EFT payment. So we purchased printing paper and a new Canon 3-in-1 printer, 3,100. So these are now 2 different items that we purchased from the same person. This means, or the same business. We start with document EFT. They don't need to tell you the number. The next number would be number 2. On day 13, who do we owe the money? Not who do we owe. Who did we pay? Adam Stationers. Now, please look at my approach. I start off with, what did we purchase? Printing paper is regarded as stationery. Then that new Canon 3-in-1 printer, which is 3,100, is equipment. The 2 added together equals the total payment that was made, 3,970. So you could have done that right in the beginning by adding them together. I just start off by saying, what did I purchase? I add the 2 together because that payment was made to one business called Adam Stationers. One EFT payment was made. Day 14, drew cash from the ATM to pay the weekly wages. So they didn't tell us that there's another employee that was employed or any additional details. So we start off with the document ATM, day 14. Cash, how much? The same as on day 7. Our wages is 4,500. Day 18. Purchased consumable stores from RT Traders and paid by EFT 640. On the same day, Aubrey made an electronic payment to Hi-Fi Traders to pay for his own personal tablet, 13,000. So there's 2 transactions now happening on the same day. So take note, it's different to what happened on day 13. On day 18, we start with the source document, evidence, EFT, and the number. It happened on day 18, and the first transaction, a payment was made to RT Traders for 640 Rand. For what reason? This was for consumables stores. Now, on the same day, the owner took money for personal use. She made a purchase. She purchased a tablet from Hi-Fi Traders for 13,000, and because this is for personal reasons, this must be recorded as drawings. On day 21, drew cash from the ATM to pay the weekly wages. The business employed a 4th worker. So always remember, in accounting, there's a reason why they give you information. Now they said we drew cash and we've employed another worker. This means that our source document, we start with ATM, money was drawn from the ATM. On day 21, we paid our weekly wages, so our details is cash. But now we need to work out if our wages was 4,500 employing 3 people, it means each one earned 1,500 and we've employed another worker, so our total wages would now be 6,000. so it increased because we employed a fourth worker. Day 25. The bank statement received from Capitec Bank indicates the following. Service fees, 210. Paid ABC estate agents 7,000 for the monthly rent. So also be very careful. The bank statement reflected two different types of transactions. Both of them, a payment was made. The first one was for service fees. So we're going to use bank statement as the source document. On day 25, now what is the name of the bank? Capitec Bank. And how much did we pay them? 210. And why did we pay them? Service fees is regarded as bank charges. So you cannot have Capitec Bank and then add those two together, because the second thing that reflected on my bank statement was the payment to ABC estate agents. So I have to write, who did I pay the money to? How much did I pay them? 7,000. For what reason? This is specifically rent expense. If you've just written the word rent, that would be wrong. Please make sure that you indicate rent expense. Right, now, day 27. Made an online payment in favor of Capitec to repay the loan 1,100. Remember in activity 1, we took out a loan. That money was paid into our bank account, so the business received money. But now at the end of the month, we need to pay back that money. And when we pay that back, it goes into the CPJ. So my source document will be bank statement on day 27. Who did we pay? Capitec Bank. How much did we pay? 1,100. For what reason? Now, again, you have to be specific. You cannot just write loan. Loan, and what is the name of the bank? Once we've now completed all the transactions, we are going to draw a line and all our money columns will be added up together. Remember what I said earlier. From the CPJ, bank is always credited and the rest is debited. This means that if I add up bank and I add up each column, wages, stationery, and sundry accounts, if you take those three and you add it together, the totals, it must equal bank. If it doesn't equal, it means somewhere you made a mistake and then you need to go back and check. The second part of this question is the counting equation. So the same as what I've done in the previous activity, we're now not going to do the T accounts. I'm going to show you how to complete this on the accounting equation without using the T accounts. The T accounts is a tool that you can use if you are not sure. If I look at the first transaction, purchase new office furniture from ZR Office Supplies. So on day 2, from the CPJ, bank is always going to be credited. The rest is going to be debited. That's why we've got bank credit, account debit, equipment. Both are classified as an asset. So my assets increase on the debit side and it decreases on the credit side. That's why we have assets plus minus 23,800. Nothing with owner's equity, nothing with liabilities. On day 7, drew cash from the ATM to pay the weekly wages, 4,500. When payment is made, bank is always credited, the rest is debited. So wages is going to be debited. Bank is an asset which will decrease on the credit side. Wages is classified as an expense. Because our expense increase, this will have a negative effect on the owner's equity. Remember back in chapter 1 we said, what interest does the owner have in the business? Is making money, making profit. So if our expenses increase, how would that affect your profit in your business? Your profit will become less because your expenses were more. So your profit is less. That's why it has a negative effect. Make sure that you understand that concept. On day 13, purchased the following from Adams Stationers and made an EFT payment. So when we do the accounting equation, it's better to do it separately. Don't add the totals together and write that your bank is going to decrease with the total amount. Write them separately and start with bank is credited. Why? Because we purchased stationery. Bank is an asset, which means it will be minus 870. Because my expense increase, it will have a negative effect on the owner's equity. And nothing happened with my liabilities. The second part of this transaction, we bought a new printer. So bank is credited, equipment is debited. Our assets will be plus minus 3,100 because both is classified as an asset. Nothing happened with my owner's equity, nothing with my liabilities. On day 14, drew cash from the ATM to pay the weekly wages. So on day 14, bank is credited. From the CPJ, bank is always credited. The rest is debited. And then we're going to show minus 4,500 assets, minus 4,500 owner's equity. I cannot have a minus on this side of the equation and a plus on that side. Then it's not going to balance. So make sure that you get these small things right, and then you can get 100% for this so easily. The next transaction, day 18. Purchase consumable stores from RT Traders and paid by EFT. So the first transaction is on day 18. From the CPJ, bank is always credited. Why? Because consumable stores were purchased. So account debit, consumable stores. Bank is an asset which will minus on the credit side. And consumable stores is an expense which was debited. It will increase my expense and therefore will have a negative effect on the owner's equity. Nothing happened with my liabilities. On the same day, Aubrey made an electronic payment for her own personal tablet. From the CPJ, bank is credited. Because this is a personal expense, it must be shown as drawings. This is something that we call in accounting the business entity principle. The owner's personal finances must be kept separate from the business. Assets minus 13,000, drawings will decrease your owner's equity minus 13,000 and nothing happened with your liabilities. On day 21, drew cash from the ATM to pay the weekly wages. The business employed a fourth worker. So reminder, a fourth worker was employed, which means that our new wages is 6,000. Bank is credited, wages debited, assets minus 6,000, owner's equity minus 6,000, liabilities nothing. On day 25, the bank statement received from Capitec indicates the following. So the first transaction was the service fees, 210. Remember, it cannot be shown as service fees. From the CPJ, bank is always credited. Bank charges is debited. Assets will decrease because bank is classified as a current asset. And bank charges is classified as an expense which will increase but will have a negative effect on your owner's equity. Nothing happened with your liabilities. On the same day, account credit, bank, we paid for ABC estate agent. That doesn't go in your accounting equation. Why did we pay them? Because of rent expense. Assets minus 7,000, owner's equity minus 7,000, and nothing happened with your liabilities. On day 27, made an online payment in favor of Capitec to repay the loan, 1,100. From the CPJ, bank is always credited, account debited, loan, Capitec, bank. You have to write that with. Bank is a current asset, which means it was credited, will minus on the credit side, minus assets. Loan is a liability, which was now debited. So if it's on the debit side, it means my debt is going to decrease. I owe them less money. That's why we've got minus 1,100. Thank you very much. I hope you've got a better understanding now of the cash receipts journal in activity 1, the cash payment journal in activity 2. Because from the next activity onwards, we are going to look at it combined. I want to leave you with this quote: teachers open the door, but you must enter by yourself. Have a wonderful day.